My Teacher by Rowena Parks of Bellingen, 2454. Narrated by Janine Penfold. A verse from Corinthians impresses on me. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know as also I am known. I have often thought this to be true of many perceptions we hold in our lives. It made me think of the women I trained from South Sudan. At first, I was looking at these women through the distorted mirror of my own culture and education. As I cleaned the mirror, I saw, albeit still imperfectly, who these women were, including their culture and diverse life experiences. 23 South Sudanese women sit up, back straight, in the ex-services club's large training room. They are dressed in their finest outfits for their first day of school. Some wearing pearls, another a retro gold lame jacket suit and sparkling heels. Others in smart second-hand suits with 1980s shoulder pads. Their hands shoot up to receive their folders and pens, and I am called with pride, my teacher. Later, I find out many have never been to school in their own country. 90% of South Sudan's women are illiterate due to decades of civil war, rigid gender roles, and lifestyle restrictions. To start the training session for Certificate 3 in Early Childhood and Care, I begin with an icebreaker activity. Click. Faces of my 2 Caucasian Australian children beam out from the PowerPoint. Pointing to them, I share a little about myself, my children and my family. Your turn, I state in an upbeat voice, gesturing to the first woman to begin. My name is Adwait. In shorthand, she states, my husband, he was shot. A shockwave bolts through me by the starkness of her statement. Oh, I'm so sorry. Next. My children are in South Sudan. I had to... She pauses. Leave all behind. We look at each other, mother to mother, heart to heart for a moment. Her head hangs and she bites her lips. That must have been so very hard, I falter, taking a sidelong glance at the beaming faces of my own children still on the screen. Next. 2 children here. Others died in camp. Lot of people very sick there. Been in camp. Long time. Faces shadow. Mine is overcast. 3 women so far, and I must get right around the room. One day after a long training session, I announce, time for a break. We all need to move. Can you teach me one of your songs and dances? I unlock something. The women jump up. In an animated celebration, they form a circle and begin to sing, clap and dance in time. The universe of this Western classroom temporarily suspends its laws. Hips and breasts vibrate simultaneously. Blood colours cheeks as smiles fan across dark-skinned faces. When I attempt to move my body like they do, they shriek and point, doubling over with combustible laughter. The next week, the women arrive at the course in their traditional clothes, complete with headwear and colourful kaftans. It's as if their dancing has been a watershed. Here, in this Western classroom, they and their culture don't have to be invisible anymore. They realise I want to embrace and celebrate their diversity. Smells of smoked meat, pieces of charcoal chicken, aromatic spices of cardamom and cinnamon emanate from the training room. Come, come, they beckon me to join them at lunchtime, passing me some rice and shared meat to place on the kisra, flatbread. Using our hands, we eat together with relish. No solitary students eating tidy cut sandwiches from plastic lunchboxes here. At times, little ones, too young to attend school, appear dressed in their best clothes. They run the length of the training room, letting out squeals of delight. 2 others sit on the desk, their chubby legs sticking out from nappies. It is clear all the women love children and accept each other's with smiling kindness. Some of the women no longer have husbands and don't have the luxury of placing their children into daycare. I am learning there is a fine line between imposing Western standards and meeting participants in an environment where they are comfortable, relaxed, able to participate and learn. Unfortunately, the training is terminated partway through because funding for the women's English classes have ceased. It is clear this westernised course design had an assumption of competent literacy skills and cultural homogeneity. I felt humbled by their achievements as resilient, resourceful women surviving famine and food insecurity, horrendous human rights violations, displacement and bereavement on a scale I could hardly imagine. Humbled too that, despite displacement, loss and sacrifice, they could still show joy, inclusiveness and have big-bellied laughs. Previously, they and their children had to run for asylum, lived in overcrowded camps, and had nothing except each other. Indomitable resilience and fortitude were necessary to immigrate as refugees and learn to function in our westernised society. I paint an oil portrait of a South Sudanese woman. It hangs on my living room wall. The look of untouchable resilience and pride challenges me and the viewer. It is there to remind me that I learnt so much during the training. From that first day I stood there as their teacher with my naive icebreaker activity to the end, when I had deep respect and gratitude for all I had learnt about the women's lives, backgrounds and their cultures. Once, long ago, old mirrors used to stretch one part or shrink another and gave a distorted and darkened view of reality. In a similar way, ignorance, stereotypes, and racist perceptions, conscious and unconscious, shrink the other and us. When we clean the mirror of distortions, we see humanity more clearly. When we embrace and celebrate diversity, we move closer to an inclusive society, and our world view is enriched. The end.